babe.
Hello, darling. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
I am okay. As you might be able to hear, I've got a little bit of a cold. I'm going to try and keep all the grossness away from the podcast as much as possible. But I'm
You're
getting
not
there.
gonna you're not gonna do a dad sneeze directly into the mic. Is that what you're
Oh
saying?
yeah, like a really dramatic, like full build up as well. Yeah, it's just it's at the end of it, but I'm at that stage. I'm bored now. Just hurry up and leave. So
Oh, they
getting
really
there.
do drag on, don't they?
Oh
Like a summer
yeah.
cold. Is there anything worse?
Mm,
Well, you do
yeah.
sound better. You sound better than you did last week. So
Yes. Yeah.
fingers
I'm getting there.
crossed.
Hopefully, not long.
So tell me, my darling, this is very much a you topic today. So
It
tell us all,
is.
what are we talking about and why is it important?
So today we are talking about one of my favorite things, which is AI. And I've got a timer as well so that I don't over talk about it and bore everyone with my pure excitement of AI. So yeah, we're going to be chatting about AI, why people use it, what it is, how to use it for your business. Yeah, just like some little tips. Yeah. So should we get stuck in?
I think so. It sounds really exciting. I think AI has been a massive topic in the small business community. Like it's
Mm,
blown up massively in the last sort of 6 months to a year.
definitely.
And yeah, I know that you're absolutely obsessed with this sort of stuff. So I can't wait to hear all of your amazing insight.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just going to try and keep it, as direct as possible and not nerd
Okay.
out too much. So I'll try.
Well, I, for one, am excited for the nerding. I know that our listeners will be because they love your nerd rants.
Yeah.
So get us stuck in, babe. What is
So
AI?
yeah, so AI is a simulation of human intelligence by computer systems, which does sound a little bit terrifying, but uh, what it is they're called AI models, and it's on servers and computers. What a load of humans have done is they've trained them up. So you can train them up in lots of different ways, and they go through a phase of learning and then reasoning and then the self-correct. And that's what the model does to then kind of create itself. So a nice example I quite like is the one of images. So there are image models, and what they do is they feed it lots of different images, and it works out from it kind of often how shapes are put together, how often colors are put together, and you kind of feed it enough, it starts to go, oh, okay. And you link it up with some words. So you say, this is a cow. Here's like 500 pictures of a cow. And then eventually it starts to go, oh, okay, I kind of have an idea about what a cow is. And that's why you'll see very early on stages of AI, sometimes cows have like 6 legs and some kind of, because it doesn't know the real world, it doesn't have any human logic. And I think that's really important to remember with AI, is that they can be very smart in some ways, but as in like with recognition and patterns, but they're quite stupid in a lot of ways. Like they don't have obviously understanding of the human world like we do. So you
Yeah,
kind of got
I've
to
seen
have that in your mind.
something to do with the images that always gets flagged up because I'm really interested in the imagery, particularly because I know a lot of people, it's quite controversial in terms of like, will it take over art, etc.
Yeah,
Obviously not, like you've just said, because it doesn't have that human element, but it can't
yeah.
get human hands right. Human hands are so kind of intricate and detailed, and they move in such unique ways that AI just, there isn't enough data within it yet for it to figure those out properly.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's getting better all the time and it's learning all the time. And because it's taken off so much, obviously people are putting more money into AI, so it's only going to get better. So, and that's why I think it's important to learn about it and go with it. AI isn't going to go anywhere. Any new technology that saves time and that saves money will always be, whether we like it or not, will always be kind of a part of growth, for humans, because businessmen kind of love it. So
Yeah.
it's so I think it's really like key to kind of learn how to use it and how in a way that you feel comfortable with, and that kind of you ethically agree with as well. So
Yeah, I think that's really important. So for small businesses in particular, because that's who this podcast is for, can you talk us through some of the more popular AI models and what we might use them for?
yeah, so the most popular ones are ChatGPT, which a lot of people have heard of, and that's a language model. And there are lots of other models that are language models around it, and you'll see, I think LinkedIn has AI in it. ClickUp has AI, Notion has AI. A lot of these ones actually still come from the base root of ChatGPT and the model that was trained on, you know, because you can like buy it and kind of use their APIs and build on top of it. So that is a real core one. And that's probably the most developed language model at the moment as an all-rounder. And then we've got Mid-Journey and Stable Diffusion, and they are image models. So that's text to image often, although you can give it an image. So you can say, you know, give me a picture of a cow on the moon, and it will kind of spit out, hopefully, something similar sometimes.
Yeah, and this is what the Photoshop AI uses, I assume.
Yes, yeah, that's very similar model. Again, they've tweaked it a little bit for their needs and a bit more artistic, because you can give it lots of different settings. So and then there's other ones like Lumen 5, which is an AI video creation. So you can say, give me a video of someone driving down the road, you know, in a car. And it's very mixed results with that. Again, very similar to the hands things. It doesn't know about gravity. It doesn't know about the laws of the world, and so it can go a bit mental sometimes, but it's still very good for kind of short clips, or if you're not being too specific. I think it's quite good. Sound Draw, which is music generation. So if you're needing maybe some music for YouTube videos, or just kind of like background music over something, music generation, and you can say, give me a piano, or give me a kind of soothing music. And again, it's using lots of different music it's heard, and it kind of creates it from patterns. It obviously doesn't really know what it's creating, but the results are pretty good. And it's not, with all of these, it's not that it's using what it's the images or the text or the music it's heard of previously. It is generating it from scratch but it's kind of using patterns from it. So if you hear something that's maybe similar to other songs, that'll be why it's using that pattern throughout it. So got to be careful with that.
That must be so useful as well, because I know with music for video, there's so many copyright issues. And so if you're having something that is generated from scratch by AI, there won't be those copyright issues. So
yeah,
really
I think it's one of those ones that the laws are kind of need to catch up with it, because it depends on how that language, how the model was trained. So
how unique the output is.
The Sound Draw one is good because all the music that it was trained on are like free to use. So you should never run into it, even if it does have a melody that's similar to something else that it got trained on. You shouldn't have like those copyright issues, because the original content was free and open source anyway. So
so interesting. Okay.
It's a lot to think about, isn't it? And then finally, which is a really good one, is Mirth, which is a text to speech. So if you're not a massive fan of like talking over videos, but maybe you want an educational video or over like social marketing, and you kind of want, and you'll hear it a lot on social media, actually. There's like certain voices that you're like, oh, that's that AI that kind of speaks like that. And you can pick who like is speaking about it. And I know there's lots of celebrity ones now as well and stuff like that to play around with. So but yeah,
like a much more advanced Microsoft Sam.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Thank God it's a bit more advanced than that as well.
I love the Microsoft Sam voice. I remember it made a bit of a, and this will be where a lot of that AI stuff is coming in. So many TikTok videos have that like AI generated speech over the top, and I swear to God, last year it was the Microsoft Sam voice, and now, like you say, it's so varied. Things are coming along so quickly.
Yes, yeah, no, definitely. I think it's it's definitely got its ups and downs, but if you're not happy speaking, or you want stuff out quickly as well, that's the other thing. It is a big time saver that you're not thinking, oh, okay, I need to set up my microphone. And also like saving money. I'm not having to set up my microphone, make sure I'm in kind of a bit of a decent soundproof area and kind of do the recording yourself. It's definitely I think it's a step forward, but we need to think of the implications as always.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads me into my next point really nicely, actually, which is why it has become such a hot topic and so quickly. And it is, as you were saying at the beginning, the very simple fact of, when used correctly for businesses, this can save heaps of money, heaps of time, and just automate and streamline so many systems and processes. Because we know, because we're here creating content now, you start a small business and you think, oh, fantastic, I'll just be able to spend all of my time doing this thing that I love. And actually, if you get a 50-50 split between creation and content, I think that you're living the dream. Content creation is such a huge proportion of the small business workload. And that doesn't come naturally to everyone. Not everyone who sets up a business has the kinds of extroverted personalities or like even the time. You know, a lot of people have children and other jobs and other things to do. So anything that can take a bit of that workload off is obviously going to, you know, it's going to take off. So we know that a lot of AI usage out there by small business owners is for things like creating blog posts, writing scripts for videos, even posting to Instagram. I know that I use a Instagram scheduling tool called Later, and they have their own inbuilt AI now. Same with Canva, they have their own inbuilt AI. So it's things like that to save the time and the energy required for the level of content creation that you need to do to be successful in business in 2023. That's why it's such a hot topic.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like with those examples you gave as well about, you know, maybe in Canva and Later, I think they're nice to have for some people. But I mean, like as far as I'm aware, we don't really, in those two scenarios, we don't use them. So I think it does depend on what your background is, but that's because, you know, you're very good at like the social marketing, like with Instagram, and like you're very obviously you're a designer, so your skills are way beyond that of AI, so you wouldn't get benefit of it. However, you know, if you're, you know, doing something so further away from Canva, like, or don't design on a regular, it's a great tool to just be like, look, I know my skill set, I can't hire someone at the moment, so I'm gonna have to kind of use it. And I think that's great that we're not kind of blocking people out from using these tools. You know, we're giving them, and that's what it is. AI is a tool, you know, and it can either speed up for people who know what they're doing, or it can help definitely a lot for people who kind of don't and is a bit lacking maybe in that area.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, and I'll go into this in a little bit more detail in a little while, but the reason that I don't use the AI included with things like Canva and with Later and stuff is because I understand the limitations of AI when you use it for pure content creation. So what I mean by that is if you ask it to write an entire Instagram post or an entire blog post, AI has its limitations. And I know that, which is why I don't use those tools. But we'll get back into that in a sec. So give us a little rundown, babe, of some of the ways as a small business owner you can use AI to support your business.
Yeah. So a few examples are like customer support, so chatbots. And chatbots have been a thing for years, but recently, because of AI, they're a lot better at, well, understanding language from the customer. They've also become a lot cheaper as well, because they're able to outsource maybe a lot of the servers and stuff that was running it. AI can kind of run fairly efficiently sometimes. And you can just give it all the information about your business, and you can say, you know, here are, and again, it's very language model based. So you say, here are my opening times, here's what I do, here are all my services. And you could just copy and paste, to be honest, almost like a lot that you'd have on your website. And it understands that in a more natural way. So when someone says, are they open now? It will have an idea of what now is, the time and the date. It will look up kind of your opening times and is able to respond. So it's quite a good tool, especially if you're kind of at that level that you're getting lots of questions and feeling a bit of overwhelm, but you still can't outsource to people. But you'll see massive companies are doing this all over. I know, you know, companies like British Gas, I have to go through the whole chatbot before I'm even allowed to kind of speak to a person, but it can often handle maybe my simple queries, to be honest. So it's a good time saver from a business perspective.
Definitely.
Another one, so sales and marketing is a huge one. So, and this is definitely more the business side. We'll go on to social media in a bit. So it can do predictive analytics. So this is something that you usually need like a data scientist for. And as a small business, you know, it's hard to kind of afford that. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's a big ask, but it can be really useful. So it can like forecast sales trends based on past data, and you can use language models for it, because again, language models, and I mean all these models, they're looking for patterns, and that's what predictive analytics is basically, is you're looking at past sales data and working out maybe what it is in the future. You can't take it as gospel, of course, but it's a real good indicator about, you know, maybe what you were doing for the summer of the last 5 years and what your sales were, and probably what they'll be over time, because it's able to kind of predict those trends. Email marketing optimization as well. I know quite a few of them now have it built in, but if you give it the data of when you were previously sending your emails, how many people opened it, read it, and all this kind of information, it can work out the best times to send emails. Again, it's a computer, and we should be using it to feed it this data and kind of give us kind of it's a lot better than humans are at reading and looking at patterns for data. Same with ad targeting. Again, give it the data that if you've made ads previously, and it's able to work out maybe who's a good audience for it, how much you should be bidding on it. But again, it's depends on the data that you're putting into it. So unless you know your competition, it can be a tricky one. But if you're using it as something just to review and almost have a second opinion, a computer opinion, but still, it can be quite good. Similar with you know, looking at your ideal target audiences and like how to optimize the ad spending for those audiences, and maybe other audiences that you might have not thought about and advanced in as well. Again, giving it as much data as possible means it's able to work this out. And for those ones, you know, again, they're all ChatGPT, I would say, would do. There are some other models that you know, specifically for these ones. I haven't played around with them, and from what I've worked with ChatGPT, it's generally pretty good at kind of doing a vast generalization. Content creation, massive one, obviously, that's a lot of people have been talking about. So blogs and video scripts and voiceovers. So voiceovers we spoke about with Murph is a very good one. And video scripts, you're looking at language models again, the same with blogs. So with those ones, I would definitely say for idea generation, it's really good. To say, give me five pros and cons of, you know, creating your own website from scratch or something like that. And it's very good. It's not something, we'll go into what not to do obviously later, but it's not something you would kind of just say, generate me this whole blog, because it can be quite generic. I use it a lot in the business for tone of voice, mainly because there's two of us, and you're very good at the tone of voice of Lucky Night, but also you're just very good writer, to be honest. You know, it comes naturally to you. Well done. It does not come very well to me. So and it's something that I'm working on, but I know it's a limitation. And so for me, getting that tone of voice, I know what I want to write, but I want it in the Lucky Night tone of voice, and so that's what I often use it for, and I find that extremely useful. Same with social media. So again, great for idea creation, great for tone of voice. I will often use it for LinkedIn personally, where I say my very bland, quite straight to the point of like, I would like to give out this SEO tip, thank you very much. And then it makes it fun, it adds the emojis. Again, I'm looking at the data and I can see a lot more interaction with my LinkedIn posts when it's generated in that. So I found that very useful. Also, post scheduling, you said about it before with later. It can optimize it, work out, when is the best times for posting by looking at past data. So it's something that kind of comes over time. Video editing and generation as well, like I said before, and image creation. So if you're wanting, there are lots of free images, I would say anyway. For blog posts, there are loads, but if you do want something quite specific, you can actually ask kind of like, I use Midjourney often if I want to kind of do those things, and it's really helpful. And the same with video editing and generation. I think the video generation is not quite at a level yet where I would really recommend it, but video editing, there are some models that are great at. You give it a video and it tries to slice up what they think would be interesting for something more like a reel, so it kind of works out. But again, you need to really review this, because sometimes it will just pick a really random 5 minutes from your video and you're like, not quite the message. So a lot of these, it would be better done by a person, but if you want to save time, then these are kind of the top ones, I would say. I'd say that's definitely both of our experience of
the business owners that we know and how they might be using AI. And you kind of touched on it a little bit there at the end, but I think that something a lot of people don't realize, because it feels very technical, AI, it is very techy. I don't understand it fully. You've got a much better grasp on sort of what it is and how it works than I do. But it has its limitations, all right? Just because it's this huge, like, technical, super clever tool doesn't mean that you can just use it any way that you can use it, because actually, as I'm about to tell you, it doesn't always work that way. So you mentioned it when you were sort of talking about those different aspects there, but writing blog posts is one of the big things that people do when it comes to AI. And I think that common practice is to write a heading or a topic into ChatGPT or similar, and then copy and paste and put it on their website. This will save you so much time. But Google actually is able to read and understand what AI generated content is. So if you just copy and paste from ChatGPT, Google will know that, and your SEO will be negatively impacted because you've used just copy and paste AI generated content. Also, from a content perspective, if you go in just dry and you just say, write me a blog post on, 5 best tools for creating a website, the content is going to be incredibly generic. It's going to be super dry. There's going to be no personality. It won't be very engaging. And it may well be like incorrect because it's just pulling in data and information that other people have already fed it. And there's no way of vetting what that information is. So it could be incorrect. So that is definitely something not to do. Louise is going to go over in a little while what you should do instead. Do not just copy and paste from AI. Instead, use bullet points or take kind of ideas and write it in your own tone of voice. Okay, that's really important. Another thing is to be really careful about sharing any kind of data privacy or privacy information with AI. You are sharing that with a collaborative model. So anything that you feed into an AI will be then used to give other people information. So nothing that goes into there is private. It all feeds into this kind of central learning model. So don't put anything in there that you won't want put up on someone else's computer screen potentially in in time. Definitely don't want to be doing that, particularly customer information. Like, do not put any customer data or information on there outside of kind of generic marketing statistics like demographics and things. That's fine, but specific info, don't share. And then the last point that I want to put up is, believe it or not, AI is capable of lying, and that is because it is based off of information that has already been fed into it by who knows how many people. You do not know who those people are. You haven't vetted them. You haven't vetted their expertise. They are just using the AI probably just to muck around, to play around, because it is a fun tool to use. So how do you know that the information in there is correct? You have to rely on your own human expertise to vet that information, which is why you should not use AI to just generate content about things that you don't know about. Back to your previous point about idea generation, tone of voice management, all of those sorts of things, fine. Don't expect it to just give you a dissertation that is point by point correct, because it's not capable of doing that. It doesn't know how to sift the lies from the truth. So that's what not to do.
Also, with the AI lying, it's part of the model. It needs to be very confident in itself that every time it's giving you stuff, it's correct. So much so, if you ask AI to go to a URL and look at a website, it will say, and it will come back and say, this is what it's found. However, ChatGPT cannot look at websites. It's a limitation. It's just lied to you. It's part of the model, and it's how it works, and it needs to pretend that it knows way more than it does. So I'm not quite sure how that is, but it will say, I can go do this, and then and then you can kind of dig in deeper and be like, what was the first title on the website? And it goes, oh, actually I can't look at websites, sorry about that. So you'll find, so I obviously use it a fair bit for for coding, maybe for writing tests or kind of reviewing stuff, it will very often get it wrong. And if you flag it up or say, follow in more, it'll be like, oh yeah, sorry, that was wrong. So it's just part of the model, but yeah, it will lie to you. So
that is terrifying.
It's mental, and a lot of people don't know that. So yeah, it lies out what it's capable, what it's actually doing. It's just,
is that not like literally the definition of the Turing test, that like AI is capable of asserting its own like individuality and lying?
Yeah, it does lie, a lot of times.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So
we're all going to be farmers again in 5 years. I'm telling you now, we're going back.
Oh well, I hope not. My tomatoes still are bloody growing. I'm not even there yet, so we'll be starving if we're all going to be farmers.
I know, I've got no skills in that area, but yeah, terrifying. Okay, right. So that was a bit of fear mongering on what not to do.
Yeah,
Louise, fill us in on what we should be doing, how we should be using AI for like the best results.
Yes. So I think probably talking a lot more about language models, maybe also image models, but mainly about language models again. So ChatGPT is using clear language. Remember, while yes, it's smart in some ways, as in pattern recognition, got a huge amount of information, it's very dumb in a lot of other scenarios, such as like the lying, so you need to be really clear. You can look up prompts. There's lots of websites that have prompts for different things. Again, just try them out. I haven't found always great results with those. But a good thing about language models as well is it remembers your whole conversation and it builds off it. So what I like to do is have different chats for when I want different outcomes. So as I said, I use LinkedIn for my tone of voice on LinkedIn, and I have just a chat for that. And what I've done is I've actually fed it examples. This is how I want it to say. This is what I want it to do. Here's a load of examples, and then I use that chat every time and be like, okay, write a post in that tone of voice saying blah, blah, blah. I write the post I would like to say in my very bland, informative, educational tone of voice. And it makes it kind of like fun and bubbly and, alive. So that's how I like to use it. And I have different models for, maybe I want my blog tone of voice. Maybe I want kind of like guidance on this. And I have ones that are specifically for coding in different languages as well, because it learns from it remembers that history, and it just saves you a lot of time. So you're not saying, okay, here are 5 examples of like a post I want every time. So keep them separate in the different chats. I would also say give it feedback as well. So if it's wrong, and it will only learn it for that chat. When the information that you're giving to it, it goes off to a server. But the model that you have, and this is for all models, they cannot work and learn at the same time. So you'll have to wait till the next release for it to like know from the information that you've previously given it. But language models,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it can't do it.
No, that makes sense though. It can't be updating in real time. Think of the kind of
that's
okay.
It. Yes,
that makes sense.
So if someone's like on a different chat giving it all this other information, it won't know it in your chat.
It won't learn that and
exactly, yeah. And there's also a human process where they will pick out the information and the data that they want to feed it to language model, because otherwise it'd probably just end up swearing it all the time, isn't it? I'm sure all the teenagers have gone on and said awful things to it. So they kind of pick and choose what they want it to learn from. So give it feedback though in your chat, so it knows not to kind of give it again, and it knows to maybe redirect it. And I would definitely say redirect it to say, oh, I didn't quite want that, or actually, say with a blog post, maybe if you're using it for the tone of voice, and say, oh, you missed that one paragraph or that point I really wanted to make, can you make sure that's included? And it will go and it will rewrite it, so just it is a conversation, I would say. You got to kind of go back and forth and just keep adjusting it. You don't need to kind of write it out every time. But yeah, and I would also say another really cool feature I found with it is, because of the lying, and because it's I like to think of it as just really cocky and overconfident. Like if you think it really is, yeah. And it's just like, it's so, in my mind, it's this guy called Brad, and he's a bit of a tech guy, and he's like, oh, I just like love myself so much, and that is what this AI model is. So I like to think of him like that. And so you can tell the AI what you want it to be. So you say, okay, I want you to be a social marketing expert. I want you to have 20 years of experience, and I want your job to be helping small businesses do this certain thing. And I think what it's doing there is, from the language model perspective, it's then looking at more information rather than just generalized information. It's looking at more information from people who are probably creating blogs on their website and are saying, I'm a social media expert and I've been helping small businesses for 20 years become marketing experts. So it's looking more at that information rather than generalized information. So then it's a lot better at giving you less generalized. So if you say, I want you to be a social marketing expert and I want you to tell me a good format for how often I should be posting on Instagram, or like what I should be talking about for these particular points, because of that, they call them like false positives, and that almost like overconfidence, cocky kind of attitude. You tell it to be something, it then believes it, bizarrely.
Yeah.
Like, I am a social media expert, but because of that, it really does help kind of like what's generated out of it. So a bizarre little tip there. And to be honest, I feel like we all need that as well. I sometimes get up and tell myself that I'm a badass bitch and I've got this, and it kind of helps me. So I like to think of it in the same way that I'm telling it what I would like it to be, so it can kind of give me the best results.
So you're giving your AI affirmations, which I love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
We're
I mean, we all need
our
them.
AI.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. So but yeah, just be, as I said, careful. It lies a lot. It kind of, it just makes up stuff all the time. It's it will often like cite studies that don't exist. It will link websites that also don't exist. So
horrifying.
Yeah, like you said earlier, is that as long as you're not almost sharing and posting stuff that you know nothing about, you'll quite easily spot it. It's definitely, it doesn't mean that if you know nothing about it, you can start posting it as it. You do need some basic understanding of what you're talking about, which is, yeah.
Oh God, this has been a lot of information. I've absolutely loved it. I've loved you. You've really come into your own this episode. I think you've absolutely in your element. Just a quick little roundup then. So we want to be using AI for business for idea generation and to create the correct tone of voice, not for feeding in topics and copy and pasting.
Yeah, definitely.
Still need to be writing content ourselves. Still needs to be in our tone of voice.
Yeah.
Fact check your information as a human.
Definitely.
Know what you're talking about before you feed it in and make sure that it's all correct. And I think that's kind of the crux of it. Don't rely on it for all of your content creation. Understand what you need it to do and let it give you pointers rather than streams of text.
Definitely. Just one thing I forgot to say as well, with the tone of voice and the content creation, once it's giving you maybe like a blog post in that tone of voice, just copy and paste it and check it. They're called like AI content detector websites. Just check that it has matched the tone of voice enough that AI content detectors don't detect that it's still using AI to generate your content. So that's a really good way to like make sure it has understood it. You've given it enough examples that are personality packed enough that it's kind of matching a tone of voice for your business. But yeah, and also have fun. It can do loads of, it can do like meal planning. It can do, your workouts, it can be,
have a
play
with it, enjoy it.
That's it. Lovely. Yeah. So perfect.
Amazing.
As another little side note as well, I know that I've got Midjourney for images, and I have unfortunately put in photos of me and Naomi to try and see if it could give us some like nice backgrounds, and it was the most terrifying results ever, wasn't it? Sometimes one of us was an animal, not quite sure why, but yeah, so there's a long way to go, but yeah, let us know kind of what everyone else uses it for, and like if you have tips as well, please do reach out to me and kind of let me know, because I'm always wanting to learn more about it and how everyone's kind of using it. So
yeah, or fun. If you've got questions about anything that we've talked about today, or if there's you've been using AI in a certain way and we've kind of told you not to do that, but maybe now you don't understand how to sort of move forward, send us a message on Instagram, pop us an email. All of our details are in the show notes. And we look forward to hearing about it. I mean, Louise loves talking about this stuff, so
yeah, I'm trying to stop myself. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, babe. Today has been an absolute treat.
Thank you. Awesome. My favorite topic.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.